Welcome back to another battle report, folks. This one's going to be a slightly different format, well, very different actually from what you're used to. I played another distanced game, this time though not with Brian, with somebody else, Peter. Hello Peter. We did it using YouTube Live. This is like the full YouTube Live that I've been working on and trying to get working, full stop, to be honest, for a while now. It kind of worked, but the video isn't good enough for us to share the way I hope we would, because I encountered another one of the weird and wonderful unexpected technical issues that is affecting this journey towards some live streaming, but I've got to the bottom of it, I think. So soon, I hope, be able to do some proper live streaming. So I still want to share the game because it was really interesting, and it was the first in our sort of proper Bagration games, using one of the scenarios from, in this case, the Soviet book. So I'm going to show the game in a different way than I would normally. The game's already been played. It was played I think 2 days ago, but I know where everything was. I'm going to recreate it for you and just talk you through it. So I'm probably going to end up spending a bit more time talking about the whys and the hows of what's going on, which might be more interesting to you than watching me just boringly rolling dice. I try to put the dice in for a bit of excitement, but it might just be a bit boring too. So hopefully that format's going to work for you. Now, the opponent in this game is a guy called Peter, somebody that I've been playing off and on against at Flames of War for about 10 years or thereabouts. He's attended a lot of the events that I've organised in Scotland over that time. He's a very good player and a very good painter. He's got some beautiful armies that we'll hopefully see on this table in the near future, once restrictions have been lifted in Scotland, the COVID restrictions. This is Peter's first game in probably about a year, to be honest, and he's playing a German list. I'm going to be playing Soviets. So we're going to go over to the game. I'm going to show you the lists, show you deployment, zones, deployment of the figures and so on, talk about our respective turns blow by blow, and then what we were talking about during the game, what the tactics were. And if you guys have got any questions about why did we do this or why did we not do that, please stick it down in the comments, and we'll try and get this to be a bit less of a dice rolling view and more of a discussion about the game. This is a little test game that me and Brian put together. Here we're working through deployment. You can see me moving cameras. Got 3 altogether, got the overall picture. You've got a little in the top left with the rover camera. It's not working just now very well, as you can see it's blinking away like mad. And then another camera that's set high up and can zoom in on certain areas. And that's the general setup, and we're learning how to communicate with each other, and for me how to pass on the right information, not just to understand where Brian, for instance, wants to place units or wants to move units or where he might want to fire. I've got to provide information to him so he understands the three-dimensional aspects of the game. And you can see there I've moved the small camera so you can have a look in detail at the terrain those tanks are about to move over. You can see the 2 cameras in use when it's time to move things. So I've got the top right camera focused on where the tanks are going, giving him some information on ranges, so he knows what's be shooting at him, what's got line of sight on him. I'm using dice as markers to give him an idea of where he can move to. Here Brian wanted to check out the possibility of an ambush. So I moved the camera, I let him have a look, he's quite happy, and then I'm showing him where the guns are going down. And then You can see it at the top left and the top right. You can see where he's shooting at. So combining the cameras gives some the bird's eye view you would have during a game. And that's what we're trying to do when we're playing this. It's going to take a lot of learning. It's going to be a lot easier for me to manage the cameras if I'm not trying to manage the game, and that's where it'll be good to get two remote players to play head to head. So hopefully I'm not just talking hot air, and I can make this happen and get the wider community involved with the channel. Any thoughts, folks? Stick them down in the comments below. So the lists. Eastern Front, Late War. Neither myself nor Brian has got the Bagration German book yet, which it doesn't seem to be out there just now for us in the UK. So he's just taken a list from DD German, and I've got my lists from Soviet Bagration. So I'll start with mine. There's two formations in this list. We've got a Hero motor rifle and a Hero T-34. Now the Hero motor rifle has got these two 13 base plus commissar rifle platoons and company command. Now these guys are fearless if the commissar is alive, 3 up skill checks and 2 up assault, so they're really nasty in assault, and that 3 up skill check can be very useful to fearless as well, as long as he's still alive. And then they've got just fairly standard, there's nothing special about these guys, they're just mortars and heavy machine guns. They don't have the hero status, if you see what I mean, but 6 medium mortars, 6 heavy machine guns. And then part of that formation too is 4 ordinary, as in not the veteran type, but ordinary 57mm anti-tank guns. Then the next formation is 2 platoons of 4 T-34-85s with 1 T-34-85 company command, and that's the Hero T-34 formation. And then in support, 76mm artillery, 122mm artillery with a wee observer and a BE-64. So it's quite a big chunk, and with some big platoons as well. And then Peter has brought a grenadier platoon. Each platoon has got a Faust and a Shrek attached, and they're just standard veteran Panzer Grenadier actually. So the rate of fire is 3 when they're stationary, 2 when they're pinned. Company command, 4 heavy machine guns, and he's using the nest card to make them into HMG nests. And I've never actually come across a nest in version 4. We'll see how I handle them. 3 Pak 40s, 3 heavy mortars, 120mm mortars. These are actually the Hermann Göring ones that I'm painting for somebody just now. Sorry again, Adam, I'm making use of them in the meantime. And then in support he has 3 Nebs, 1 Panzer III observation and 3 Panthers. Now the mission, we'll go over in a second, but Peter's going to defend in the mission. In this respect, it's a lot easier for him because he's playing remotely. He's going to have less things to worry about in terms of movement and understanding threat ranges. He can get set and be good to go, so to speak. So I'm going to go over to the deployment. I'm going to put the deployment markers down as well as put all the figures down where they were, and we'll go over the mission at the same time. Here is the mission, Crossroads, a river crossing mission. And you'll note I've actually got some rafts handy if I'm mad enough to attempt to use them. These are roughly nearly as wide as the river in some cases, but I'm sure they'll do the trick. This is a river, that's the important thing. And you can see it here. You can see the 2 objective deployment zones, 1 for the defender to place, 2 for me to place. Halfway line, and then a bit of a constricted deployment zone. It's a bit tricky, to be honest, when you've got a large army, to put it in that size of a deployment zone and then attack from it, because you've got to kind of deploy out and then forward in many ways. So mission special rules, we've got ambush, deep immediate reserves, and the river assault obviously. And then you can see it's got ranged in markers, no minefields though, and the objectives don't go live until turn 6. Now the victory conditions require me to hold that objective, the one placed by the defender, plus one of the other objectives. So you can see I've placed mine there, Peter's placed his there, so it's a very small 8-inch box right in the middle of the table that I can go in. This here is centred around the river. This is the deployment zone for my objectives. Now, depending where the river goes, you're more or less likely to see objectives in front of it or behind it. In this game, there's quite a bit of space either way, and what I've done is place one in front for the easiest approach and one behind, hoping to pull see, I'm going to kind of keep saying Brian when I mean Peter. Try and pull them in two different directions at once with these two grenadier platoons. If I put both of them on this side of the river or that side of the river, they'd be mutually supporting to a degree. Peter has placed his machine gun nests upper story here. We think machine gun nests can go in buildings, folks. If it's wrong, please let me know in the comments below. I've not used them before. So there's one there, sorry, that's lower story, upper story, and just on the ground there. That's machine gun nests. The observer is behind that line of trees. That's just a tree line, just linear terrain. The nebs are behind the wood. Infantry platoon back here because of these ranged in markers. And then he's got another infantry platoon. This guy is in that building. And then got a Shrek and a base in here. Company command. And then the platoon is spread out around here. So I've got to get through them to get to there. So it's a good position to place them. Now, Peter has his Pack 40s in ambush and his heavy mortars and panthers in reserve. I've already realised that his list is probably not as well balanced for a 60-40 split as it could be. But he's hoping to get those heavy mortars on early to start punishing my hordes of infantry. So on my side, what have I got? Heavy machine guns is 4 in here, 2 up, 2 down. 2 in here, 1 up, 1 down. Anti-tank guns as far forward as possible. One of my hero rifles, mortars, hero T-34s plus their command, or the company command for the rifles in there. My 76mm, my 122mm, an observer, another hero rifle, platoon, and hero T-34. So you can see it's quite restricted. Depending on terrain, there could be terrain in here that, imagine was a wood or all kind of things that could make life really difficult, but it's okay. But it is restricted. I have to break out off here to go and advance, as opposed to, for instance, go right up the side. I've got to take a bit more time and get there. Now Peter's put his ranged in marker for his nebs here, anticipating a move up the road. And the reason for Peter's reticent Panzer Grenadiers is my objective markers is 1 to 2 the front, mortars here, 76mm here. So he's decided to stay off the objective and force me to either sit and wait and not do anything with my artillery, or force me to lift my artillery and use it somewhere else. So Peter's plan holds here, a bit of shenanigans over there, Pack 40s to try and take out a platoon of T-34s, Panthers to come on to deal with the rest, his infantry, his nebs, and then when they come on, his heavy mortars, plus the nests will hopefully shoot up my infantry or blow them up on the way over, because I've got a lot of ground to cross. My plan, my main thrust is going to, my initial thrust, let's call it initial thrust, is going to be up this way. These guys are ready to move off with the bulk of the tanks, but it's quite a narrow deployment, so I don't have to put everything right over there and able to support it. So these guys are in a position to move up to get that objective, but then also potentially support a move towards that objective, or maybe even develop something in the town. These guys are ready to move out and, well, I suppose face any ambush possibilities, as well as swing across the table if necessary. Likewise, these guys can move up and swing across the table if necessary. That's the plans. Let's see what happens in reality. So we'll go over to Soviet turn 1. I'll make the moves and tell you what happened with the shooting. Soviet turn 1. So, these guys took a tactical move into some cover behind the wheat fields. These guys did a dash. There was a channel for them to do the dash, and they're really quick, T-34. So they've got some concealment from the field, and I know that hill is going to be quite handy for me. It's going to block any fire from the front. These guys stayed put. I'm holding them back to see how things develop. And these guys managed the terrain dash, which is really the same as a tactical for infantry, to be honest, it's 8 inches, and then managed a successful follow me, and the company commands moved up with them. Now shooting, what I did in that turn was I kept these two where they are. There's not a hell of a lot of other targets out there, and I do want to try and put pressure on that objective and hold Peter back off it or force him to move on to them. So they stayed put, so they've got no targets because he's hugging the river. The 122s eventually ranged in here, but never got any kills on the nests. And basically everything that could fire fired at the nests. These guys, heavy machine guns and anti-tank guns, fired at a combination of these 3, depending on line of sight and range. And they took quite a lot of hits, to be honest. Even failed a few saves, but that reroll successful firepowers, when for instance your firepower is only 6, they were quite happy. They didn't take any casualties at all. So that's game on for me. Let's go over now to Brian, I'm doing it again, Peter's first turn. Peter's turn 1. In terms of motivation, these 2 nests were pinned because of the number of hits that they took, but they unpinned okay. In terms of ambushes, he's put his Pack 40s down here. In terms of reserves, he didn't get any, unfortunately. Then in terms of shooting, the Pack 40s fired at this lot here. It's a long range and concealed. He got 2 hits only, which isn't very good. Let's actually this way. And I rolled a 5 and a 4 for saves, which meant 1 chance to kill, which he did, 1 chance to bail, which he did. So it could have gone better, to be honest. Then the nests opened up. This one was out of range of any infantry, and this one over here actually has a very uneventful game. So this one and this one fired. They only managed to get 3 hits, and I mistaken targeted them into the guys in bulletproof cover in the house, which is very gamey, so apologies for that. But only 3 hits, so we didn't pin them, didn't cause any casualties. I made all my saves. The Nebs moved the ranged in over here and didn't get any kills, but pinned the heavy machine guns and pinned the infantry behind, and now he's ranged in with a great big salvo template. So that's it for Peter. He's got first blood. See what happens in my turn 2. Soviet turn 2. So motivation, the bailed out T-34 go back in, heavy machine guns unpinned, and the guys didn't. So in terms of movement, they've got themselves behind that hill, so they can't be shot at by the Pack 40s. These are out of range currently of the Pack 40s, and I kept them still to try and kill some nests. These guys moved back, because they didn't unpin, I've just moved them back out of the ranged in template. I could have left them where they were, but there's so many of them. With reroll saves, hitting a 3, they're probably going to get clobbered. So I've just pulled them back, hoping to unpin and then proceed. Just sitting still, lazy, but probably get me killed. These guys moved up with another follow me, come to command, second to command in the building, but once again I probably should have put 2 bases from the platoon in there if I wanted to be gamey and use my stake and target onto guys in bulletproof cover. But that's a real bad threat to that ambush, and I am driving away from the ambush as well, I want to point out. And this is something that you may have seen me say in other games. Once somebody pops their static anti-tank on ambush, you don't have to stay and shoot at them with your tanks. You can get the tanks out of danger and deal with them with using artillery. Just depends on obviously the situation in the game, what turn it is, and so on. But you don't have to go toe to toe with your tanks against nasty anti-tank guns if you can get the hell out of dodge. And these guys can shift. They tactically moved as well, by the way. They've got a 12-inch tactical, which is really good. So that's it for my movement. Having to pull back, but moving forward. Tanks just kind of manoeuvring a bit just now. Let's go over to the results of any shooting. Soviet shooting. Let's start with the artillery. Kill anti-tank guns was the mode for the artillery this turn. These guys tried to range in and got a 3, a 1 and a 4. These guys tried to range in. I'm looking for a 5 incidentally. A 2, 2 and a 3. Then these guys got a 2 and a 6. So one of them ranged in. And then my to hit rolls, I got a 6 after a reroll, a 6 and a 5. And then Brian failed a firepower on the middle gun, but I rolled a 3. I mean, he failed his save and I rolled a 3. Not very good all round. The heavy machine guns fired at this nest and got 16 hits and it survived. These guys with 4 shots got 3 hits and it survived. These guys with 8 shots got 1 hit and it survived. They're actually really easy to hit, but they've got good saves and that reroll firepower is quite useful, especially if you're getting shot at by small firepower weapons. And then the anti-tank guns fired at this nest and it actually got killed, actually died. So there you go. Lots of shooting coming for these guys, doing nothing. They're not doing anything. Anti-tank guns doing what I thought they might end up doing, which is killing nests. Artillery, not ranged in yet, effectively. But infantry moving up into danger close. So over to Peter for his second turn. German turn 2. Let's start with motivation. The nests unpinned. Anti-tank guns, however, didn't unpin. 2 dice for reserves. Unfortunately, nothing's coming this turn for reserves. In terms of movement, these have moved up, so they're not under this template, but they're now ready to get dug in to defend that objective. In terms of shooting, the Nebs shifted over here, ranged in, got 5 hits. It was on the, second attempt, and killed two bases. The 2 nests over here and these 2 end buildings fired and killed, got 5 hits altogether, killed 1 base. So they're pinned, they took quite a few hits, but they're living a charmed life so far. They've got this far with just 3 bases lost, which is very unusual. Very unusual. Over there, Peter is just staying put and holding on to the crossroads to prevent any progress to the objective back there. So it needs some assets on the table. It needs extra artillery to deal with my infantry and panthers to snip off my tanks at long range. Next turn he will get something. Let's go over to my turn 3. Soviet turn 3 movement. Oh, motivation first of all, sorry. It went pretty well all round. The guys over there unpinned, as did the guys who were back at the factory. In terms of movement, these guys came dashing out here and then followed me, so they made good progress, though they're a bit of a lump. They're not formed up in a line at all. Over there, just a tactical move up towards the church. There's some bases in the church. Can't get all the church occupied because of the Pack 40, but there's some in the church. T-34s here have moved to a holding position, and these guys have stayed put to try once again to kill some nests. Soviet shooting, let's start with the artillery. So I had to move my ranged in mortars because of the proximity to the guys that were in the church. They managed to range in a second attempt. 76s, 5 needed, didn't manage it, but the 122s did manage it. And they're all concentrating on that one spot over there. Now, you'll notice that there's nothing been taken off, because it didn't kill anything. Peter made his saves where he was hit, though I think I may have forgot to reroll misses from a mortar, so remember that folks, if you got those multiple gun batteries, like 6 guns, don't forget to reroll your misses. Then the infantry here tried to take a few shots at those infantry that are not yet dug in, but did not manage to get any hits on them. Then they did take mortar hits, sorry, so they are pinned down. And then these guys getting 3 hits, these guys getting 4 hits, managed to kill that nest. They have machine guns, fired off a few shots at these infantry, but there was no real chance of them hitting. So, killed another nest, got my artillery in a useful place, but then it's over to the assault over here. This is how the assault went down. Everybody who could get into contact, 4-inch move into contact, and then a 4-inch move into contact with one base already in contact. So basically 2 there, and should be 4. It was 4 there. Counterfire got 4 hits, so very nearly pinned me down. That was 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6. The infantry weren't close enough to get to shoot anybody who was not obscured by the guns or the tanks, so they couldn't counterfire. And I lost 2 saves. So Peter knew that was a lost cause, so he tried to save the other things by knocking them down to 1 hit each. And then in roll to hit, that got hit but saved, that got hit and killed, and that got hit and killed. Now these guys, if you remember folks, hit on a 2 on assault, which is really nasty. So I left Brian a problem. He could try and stick in and just hope I run away, or at least try and save his Panzer III. So he decided to do that, sacrificing the Pack 40, did a cross check, retreated to here. Now that wasn't going to get far enough away, so it was going to get captured. What I forgot to do, and apologies Peter, is actually move out to capture it, because I just consolidated back to the church and considered it captured. But I really had to put at least 1 base forward to capture it. But that's how it ended up. And I moved back into the church. Take advantage of as much bulletproof cover as I could, and that ended the turn. So another nest gone, 2 things ranged in there now, which is not so good for Brian, and for Peter, and Pack 40s destroyed. Next turn though, Peter will get reserves. German turn 3. Peter's got 3 dice for reserves this turn, and he only gets 1. So he's anxious to get more artillery on the table at the moment to deal with my infantry, so he's brought the heavy mortars on. His own infantry is dug in, but they've not unpinned. So there was no other movement, really. So straight to shooting. So starting with the Nebs, they used the observer tank to range in the church. They got 5 hits and managed to get 1 kill out of it. The infantry fired at the church, got 6 hits but no kills, but they're on firepower 6. The company commander actually, second in command, got killed by the Nebs too, incidentally. And then the nest that's still surviving over here got 2 shots into the church and managed to get 1 kill too. And that's it. Fairly short turn for Peter. Next turn he will get his Panthers, so I'm going to have to start dealing with them. He'll have another battery of artillery. He's still feeling quite comfortable though. These guys are in position, dug in. They've got to worry about the artillery that's going to come down on them now, but he's whittling that platoon down. I think there's only about maybe 7 bases left in it, and I'm not anywhere near that objective yet, so plenty to play for just now. Soviet turn 4. So these guys managed to unpin over here. I didn't move them anywhere. They weren't strong enough to go out against a full Panzer Grenadier platoon. These guys stayed hull down on top of the hill. These guys did a tactical and then a follow me. And these guys did a tactical out to here. So I'm now closing in on both objectives. Got to keep remembering that one. I kept forgetting about it during the game. I need to capture that. Never mind that or that. So that's it for movement from me. Less things happening on the table now, so straight over to my shooting. In terms of shooting, well, first of all, the heavy machine guns fired at these guys. Got 3 hits, no effect. The guys used machine guns, got 1 hit, no effect. The guys, I didn't bother shooting with them. I am going to do an assault though. Here I got 8 shots at the poor little observer, and I'm afraid he got 2 hits on him and a failed one, so he's a goner. The 76s stayed ranged in there on 4 bases, but got 2 hits, but no effect. And then the mortars I moved them to range in the middle. Took 3 attempts and got no hits, but I'm ranged in a good position next turn. And then the 122s ranged in between these features. I got 1 hit and it managed to actually kill a base of infantry. So over to the assault next. I'll do that next. These guys are going in here, and it's quite interesting in these situations where you are doing an assault in close terrain. This is a very small building. I could only get 2 bases in to attack the guy, but it restricted counterfire as well. It was restricted to him and him. Everyone else didn't have line of sight or range to hit, so I took a couple of hits on the way in, literally a couple, but I made my saves. And then a 2 up in the assault, well, then I consolidated by moving these 2 heroes into that building, and then the consolidating platoon gets a 4-inch move, so I basically started budging everybody up behind. Keep moving forward, and then this move in here forced some guys to move. Let me see, there was, due to the proximity, I think, Shrek, well, Brian did that. So he's got a bit more options for counterfire because he can fire up and down the street against anything going in here, but his line of sight and in fact he's spread out, it's not great. So you can become like a bit of a rabbit warren when you're in a town and you're fighting The only advantage being in many cases the attacker cannot get a lot of bases at you unless they're attacking on a broad front, and if they are, you've probably got lots of counter fire anyway. But it could be quite interesting figuring out the best options for yourself. German turn 4 and the last reserves being the Panthers have arrived. So Peter's placed them one looking out this way but still within command distance and line of sight. The commander who's facing up this way. Everybody unpinned, so there was no issues there. And then in terms of shooting, the Panthers, there was some concealment here and he was on the move, so his rate of fire was only 2, but he still managed to get a kill. This one here was just one shot, didn't get anything. The mortars ranged in over here but got no hits. And then the Nebs rearranged them with the company command over here and got 4 hits, but I didn't have to make any rerolls because it was a rearrange in, so it was okay, no casualties there. So I lost the T-34 that turn, but now Peter has got his main anti-tank assets on the table. We'll see if I can deal with them and if I can actually start killing some of his infantry. Soviet turn 5. So we're getting closer to turn 6, which is a critical turn. At least I'm near an objective. So in terms of movement, well, motivation first of all, the guys in the church unpinned. These guys are fine as well. They've moved up a bit, so there's 4 bases in this building now and 2 in here. These guys are not standing in front of Panthers, so they have moved around. And then in terms of shooting, I kind of gunned for the nest, the T-34s and the anti-tank guns all fired and finally got that nest. So that's all the nest taken care of on this side of the table. Then the 122 mils tried to range in here, use my company commander over in the church, see if I could get some mortars and Panthers under the template, but he didn't range in. He needed a 5, he got a 2, a 4 and a 4. The mortars managed to get 2 hits even with rerolls, and Peter saved even with rerolls, and the 76 mils got 2 hits which Peter saved. As I was explaining to Peter at the time, I need him to die. Not personally, I need these guys to fail their saves so that I can actually do something to that objective, but they're just taking everything that I'm throwing at them at the moment. So assault next. There was only one good option for assault here. They wouldn't bring in lots and lots of counter fire. It's to go into this building, because that would only allow, because of where line of sight was and where the opening is, 2 bases to counter fire, and I did it. Managed to get both bases in. One base got killed in the way, sorry. The survivor managed to kill that base because remember he's a 2 up, and here if I'm lucky he breaks off, but I don't. Company commander moves up and motivates and kills him, and that ended the assault. Company commander goes back where he started. So I lost 2 bases to get 1. Not great, but I feel it's worth a chance if I can get those guys into assault. They're going to force motivations and importantly hit people on a 2 up. So that could have been another little stab into the town to keep the pressure on these guys and possibly even just open up a new flank over there. But that's it now. Over to Peter for his turn 5. Peter's turn 5, so the Panthers did a blitz and a tactical to get some shots down here. The infantry are just staying on the ground, keeping their heads down. They unpinned, by the way, as did those guys. And in terms of shooting, there was 4 hits on the guys in the church, but nothing successful, no kills. There were a couple of hits over here, but once again, no kills. That's from the heavy mortars. The church is the Nebs. And then the Panthers fired down here. Only got one hit. Only 3 dice, needing 5s because of range and concealment, so it wasn't such a good opportunity, but he only managed to bail 2. So he's still got his main assets on the table. I've still got to try and push him off his objectives. Let's see what I can do in turn 6. German turn 6. Objectives start to become live. So in terms of movement, and I forgot to mention, those guys actually shooted and scooted off the hill a previous turn. That's why they got shot at and not them by the Panthers. And that the heavy machine guns were moving up from the factory. They've now moved up to this position here. These guys didn't unpin, by the way, those guys did. And the T-34s are now all hiding behind a hill. So over to my shooting for turn 6. Shooting, the mortars managed to get, just check this again, 5 hits and 3 kills this turn. And then the 76 has got 1 hit and 1 kill. So 4 of those infantry bases are away. It's finally getting the message and dying. The heavy machine guns also fired and got no hits. The anti-tank guns got 1 hit but failed save but failed firepower. And then the 122s ranged in over here and managed to kill second in command. So let's see, that was 4 away from there. Basically that's what's left. So it's now looking a bit tricky for Peter. We'll see what he does. Oh, these guys, I mentioned this, they're pinned still. See what Peter can do in his turn 6. So Peter's turn 6. These guys unpinned. The guys over there unpinned. And the Panthers, you can see, have taken a tactical move from where they are to get over the bridge to help defend that objective. So over to shooting. So the mortars, Peter kept them, because they were ranged in and there's still a couple of bases infantry under it, he kept them firing here but got no hits. He did manage though to kill my second in command in the church, but still not a lot happening there. The Panthers could see 1 tank sticking out behind a hill and missed. They only had 3 shots. So I've now got to decide what to do against all these Panthers. I'm not going to get around the side of them before they've got a chance to get in a good few shots at me. So over to me for my turn 7. German turn 7. Let's have a quick recap just on progress. I'm nowhere near that objective. I'm within 8 inches of that objective and I've got that one, currently got that one. So I'm still in the game as the attacker. So in terms of movements, I'm thinking, let's just get into them. I'm behind that hill. I'm going to have to come out and have a go at these Panthers, see what I can do. I thought these guys are 3 up skill. I'll be able to blitz. I wish that was the case. The platoon that was here along with the company command failed on their blitz. I just wanted to get them up, hull down, so I thought to hell with it. They're just going to take a tactical move forward and these guys are going to come up to join them. He made his blitz, so I just thought I'll put him up. The company command, I'll put him up there. Anti-tank gun stayed still. Artillery is staying put. Currently. No, I'll come to that in shooting, sorry. So, over to shooting. I'm now charging at 3 Panthers with front armour of 9 going up to 10 at long range with my anti-tank 12. We'll see what happens. Starting with artillery, I managed to range in my 122s on top of the bridge there, but never got any kills. The other artillery, however, and the mortars finished off the infantry. And then T-34s. Okay, so 6 shots from 2 different platoons aiming at the front tank, because it's a short range, so therefore front armour 9 and easier to hit. As it happened, I managed to get a couple of hits, but Peter knocked him onto the back, and all I managed out of those couple of hits was a bail. Lucky to get that because he needed to roll a 2, then I needed to pass my firepower. So, one of the back got bailed out, but then he joined in, went for the front guy again, and then ended up going back on him and he got bailed out. So I bailed out 2 Panthers. Quite surprised. As far as everything else goes, those guys are still pinned, not doing anything. So I'm just keeping them going to ground, and those guys are staying gone to ground. So Brian's got 2 Panthers and needs to get back in next turn. Turn 7 for Brian. Motivation step. 2 Panthers didn't get back in. But he passed his last stand. So he still has 1 tank there. Then in terms of shooting, the heavy mortar stayed over here to try and keep them under pressure. Didn't get any kills. The Nebs hit in the church again and I lost another base, but I've still got enough in there to bravely charge forward. And then the Panther, the unveiled one, it managed to get 1 hit and killed a T-34. So, by some kind of miracle, I've only lost 1 T-34 and there's only 1 Panther sitting in front of me. So in turn 8 I may be able to do something decisive. German turn 8. So in this turn, I kept these guys still and then moved them up because they could get behind for flanking shots. The infantry have moved up. These guys didn't unpin again. This is when they could have been very useful. Pincer attack onto that, but there you go. But that's it for movement, not very much movement. It's all going to come down to what's happening here. So shooting, the most important thing was these 2 guys. Now, there's a burning tank there. I want to get him in the side, but he's in cover. So I'm thinking, he's a 4 to hit. Because he's not in cover, he's a 5 to hit. I hit him on the front, I hit him on the side. What am I going to do? I thought I'm going to target him, and then I can, say if I get 2 hits, put 1 in there, 1 in there. As it was, I got 1 hit him in the front, and killed him. There you go. And then these other guys fired. Once again, concentrating on the front guy, but they managed to hit him. He took a hit once again. He died. And then we moved into the assault phase, managed to get 4 bases up into assault. Just 4 bases up. Hit him, failed to kill him, failed to counterattack, and then he broke off. I consolidated in a position where he would have to assault me off of the bridge. And then just to finish the game off, basically, Peter came back, bailed one of these out, came over for the assault to try and push me away from the objective. That one guy survived and got him on the side and killed him. And that ended the game because I was within 4 inches of the objective. So there you go, folks. A victory for the Soviets. We didn't get to see the boats in action. I can't see the boats getting used very much in a mission like this though. To get to the river, if there was an objective over the river such as there, now I would need to put an objective perhaps away from a bridge and then try and cross, but because of the direction of drift I'm going to be crossing from beside one of the bridges. Doesn't make any sense to me. I think it would very much depend on how the table was set up and how the terrain was. When you consider if the flow's going that way, to get to there, to stand any chance of crossing, I would have to start crossing here. You know, so there's a bridge there. So why would I go into the boat and then potentially end up 16 inches downstream, which could be quite funny, to be honest. It could cause pandemonium. You know, there could be boats coming ashore everywhere, which would be quite funny, but I think they would get killed. So I can't see in this mission, at least, the boats getting much use. I can see the boats being very interesting and useful, maybe in a more bespoke kind of mission, perhaps with the river up that end and the defence all behind it, maybe with one bridge, or the bridges in a particular way so that you can put the boats over without having to encounter the enemy's defences, because even if the objectives were over there, I doubt very much that the defender's going to give up that, or going to give up this block here. So we'll see. We've got more more river missions to play. We'll see what we can do, but please give me your thoughts, guys, on river crossings and whether or not you can see the boats getting used much. As far as the game itself goes, Peter feels that he never got the right balance in his list, and he needed his mortars on. He missed 4 turns of those mortars firing at my guys. That could have made a huge difference to the pinning and to the casualties and such likes. And so he just had a little bit of an imbalance in his list, but that's just down to the fact that he's not played in about a year. As far as my list goes, this is one of the lists I will be using. It can attack, it can defend, it's got lots of artillery, and it's got a good split. The tanks are the 40% in reserve, all the infantry and guns are on the table, so it's not a bad split. And in this game, I actually feel as though I was quite lucky in getting to this point with so many infantry left alive. Could have gone a lot worse. The nests were really difficult to kill, but I don't think they did that much. You might have different experience with machine gun nests or even gun nests. Once again, let me know in the comments if you have. But they just couldn't seem to concentrate enough fire, because by their nature they're split up, so they've not got like 4 heavy machine guns altogether hammering out 24 dice into one platoon. You know, you don't have that. They're kind of spread, and I don't think they necessarily slowed me down that much. And when I was shooting at them, I didn't have much of anything else to shoot at that time with direct fire, because everything else was gone to ground. But first time using nest, we'll see if we use them again and how it works. But thanks, Peter, for the game. We'll get more done. We will hopefully get Peter playing against Brian at some point in the near future, once I do hopefully my last little technical upgrade, shall we say, to how I'm doing this, and then potentially be playing people from all over the place. That would be a good thing to do. So any comments about that, any attempts you've made yourself about streaming, using cameras to play remotely and such like, please stick them down in the comments once again, and share your experience with the rest of the community. Thanks for watching, guys.